Learn how to deploy projects in DigitalOcean from Code with Stein. While it shows how to deploy Django projects, you can follow the steps with other types of projects. Along the way, you'll learn about Nginx, Supervisor, Git, Gunicorn, Postgresql, and more.
Hey guys, in this video I will teach you how to deploy one or multiple Django projects to a server on DigitalOcean. Much of this can also be used for other frameworks as well. I'm going to use a server with Ubuntu 22.04, which is their latest stable version with long-term support, and I'm going to use technologies like Nginx, Gunicorn, Postresql, Supervisor, Let's Encrypt, GitHub, and probably some more. I've created two very basic Django projects on a machine. They don't do anything more than show a few pages and some images, so it's easy to separate them from each other since we're going to deploy more than one project. I've created a little to-do list that we're going to go through in this video. So first we have the introduction, which is now. Then we're going to create a new account, create the server, install software and similar, set up requirements file from the local environment, send code to Git, set up the database on the server, Nginx, get SSL certificate and similar. So now the introduction is done. Then we can continue to create an account on DigitalOcean. So if you just go to digitalocean.com, you can sign up there, which is free. I have a link in the description below, and if you click that one, you will get $200. You can test this servers for 60 days. So I have already created my account and logged in. So when you have done the same thing, you will be presented with a screen similar to this one. If this is your first experience with deployment, all of this can be a little bit intimidating. But don't worry, you will quickly get used to using DigitalOcean because everything here is well documented and easy to understand. Great, so let's go back here so I can set this task to done. Next step then is to create a droplet. So you have a create button up here where you can create things like droplets, Kubernetes, app platform, functions, databases and similar. So a droplet is like a virtual private server or a VPS. Some places call it nodes, and there are different terms for this. But this is just a simple cloud platform where we can have Ubuntu installed, and it's then possible to install software there for us. So we can click this one, and then first we need to select which region we want to have this. It's practical to have this as close to where most of your users are. Since I'm located in Norway, it's best for me to have it in Frankfurt or Amsterdam. So I'm going to select Frankfurt for this one. And they only have one data center, so it has to be this one. So if I keep scrolling down, then I can see here that I have OS. You can also install marketplace images. That typically comes with ready installed WordPress, LAMP, Laravel or other stacks. But I'm just going to go for OS here, select Ubuntu and version 22.04. So you can see here this is LTS, which stands for long-term support, which means that they're going to support this for at least 5 years, I think. Next step is the size. So if you're going to do something that requires a lot of CPU, you could go here. It's a little bit more expensive, or if you need more memory, need more storage, etc. But I usually just go for the basic. Here you can also select what sort of SSD you want to use. These are typically a little bit faster, and you get AMD CPUs or Intel. But for this tutorial we can just select regular, which is more than enough. Since we're going to have multiple projects, this server might not be big enough. Not sure, but I'll just go for this for now. So then I've selected this. This costs $12 per month, and you only pay for each hour this is up and running. So if you delete it after 1 day, you will only pay for 1 day. But even if it's off, you are still paying, so you need to delete it if you're not going to use it. Here you can connect to multiple disks if you need more volume, because you get 50 gigabytes here, but these volumes are typically a little bit cheaper. You can also have weekly backups. That's based on the price of the server. I'm not going to use that now. And then you can select how you're going to connect to the server. You can either use SSH keys, which is the most secure, or you can go here and type in a strong password. So I'm just going to do that now. Like that. Then if you want to have metrics on the server, you can have that. This way you can get email warnings if you use too much CPUs, or if you have a full disk or similar, then you'll get a free an email warning. Then if you want more than one servers, you can do that here. We are just going to do one now because I want to show you how to have multiple projects on one server. And then the host name. This could either be something cool, or it can just be something unique, or something like this where you see that we are using Ubuntu. We have one virtual CPU, we have 2 gigabytes of RAM, it's in Frankfurt. And I just put it without any tags. I don't need to do that, and it can just be in my project Code with Stein. So if I now click create droplet, then that should be it. And now you can see here that it is being created in the background. So this typically just takes a few minutes, and when that's done, everything is ready and we are ready to connect to it and start updating stuff. And now you can see that this is done. So if I click this, I will get a little bit more information about this. Here's the IP address we're going to use to connect. So click copy to get the IP address and go to a terminal. On Mac you have a built-in terminal, or you can download iTerm2. On Windows I think you can download Putty, or maybe you even have it installed already. Okay, so now we can connect to the server by saying SSH root, which is the main or root user for this server, and hit enter. Yes, I want to add that to the list, and then the password I used to create the server. Sometimes it can take a few minutes after this initialization is finished before you can connect. So if you get the wrong password, just close and try again in 2 or 3 minutes and you should be able to get in. Great, so now it's installed and we can access it. Perfect. So then we can set this to done. And we can continue to this task, which is to update and install software. So even though this is just created, there are a few updates that usually can be updated when you're ready. So to make sure that all of the references and similar to the packages and software are up to date, we need to run a command called sudo apt update. So this is sort of just checks if there are anything to update, like that. And to run the actual upgrade, we run sudo apt upgrade. So you can see here there are a lot of things that needs to be installed now. So just type capital Y and hit enter and wait a few minutes. Okay, suddenly we're getting prompted with a little thing here. What do you want to do about the modified configuration? You can just keep the local version installed. Hit enter. Yes, there's one more thing here saying that if you want to upgrade the kernel for Ubuntu, you need to reboot the server. I'm not going to bother about doing that now. So I just hit enter and hit enter again. If you want to reboot, you just need to type reboot, hit enter and wait a few minutes. Okay, so now everything is updated and upgraded. So now we can install most of the software that we are going to use here on server. So to do that, we run sudo apt install, and we're going to install a package called python3-pip. And python3-pip is a package that installs pip. And pip is a tool that we're going to use to install additional Python packages. space. We're going to also install Python 3-dev, and this is a set of tools and libraries. This is a set of tools and libraries for Python, and I think it's required for packages that are connected to the language C. For example, we're going to use Postgresql, which requires this. And I want to install lib pq-dev. This is also a set of tools and libraries, more for Postgresql and not necessarily Python. And I want to install Postgresql, and I want to install Postgresql-contrib. And this is a package that contains some additional modules for Postgresql. And I want to install Nginx, which is a web server we are going to use. I want to install certbot, which is a script or package that we're going to use to get SSL certificates. And we should install Python 3-certbot-nginx. This is Nginx. This is some helper things for Nginx to get certificates using Python. And Supervisor, which is a program that we're going to use to run in the background to make sure that Django is always running on the server. I will come back to a few of these later, so you don't have to worry too much about these yet. But now we can hit enter. And yes, I want to install all of this, so just type capital Y and hit enter and wait. So same warning as before, just hit enter, and we should be ready. Great, so I can go back to my to-do list and set this task to done. Next step is to configure Postgresql or set up Postgresql. So let's go back here. We are still connected to the server. And to log in to Postgresql, we run sudo-u to select the user, which is Postgres. That is a user that Postgresql comes with. And we want to run a command called psql, which is sort of a command line for Postgresql. Then I want to create a new database for one of the project. So create database space project 1 and with semicolon and hit enter. So now we have created the database. Next I want to separate user just for this database. So create user, and I'm going to call this project 1 user. Feel free to be a little bit more creative if you want it. With password, and I'm just going to use password project 1 password. This is just educational, so I don't mind if this is very not secure. But of course you need to select a more secure password for your project. Hit enter. Next I need to do some changes to this user, so alter role, and the role we're going to change is project 1 user. We're going to set the client and coding to UTF-8. So this just makes sure that the data that are stored in the database is following UTF-8 standards. And one more, alter role, project 1 user, set default underscore transaction underscore isolation to read space committed. Wait, that's not correct. Alter role, project 1 user set. It was supposed to be 2 M's there. Like that. And this is that each query within a transactions sees only data committed before the query began. So other transactions can modify the data being read, but those modifications are not visible to the current transaction until they are committed. So that means that we can write to the database and read at the same time without there being anything bad happening. You do not want to set the default time zone, so alter role, same user, set time zone to UTC. Hit enter. So now we have a database and we have a user, but they are not connected. So that's the last thing we need to do here. Grant all privileges. That's not the correct way to write this. Privileges, like that. On database, select database, which is project 1, the one we created here, to the user we want to grant all of the privileges to, and hit enter. So now this user can insert data, read data, delete data, etc. Then I can just write \q to quit this command line for Postgresql. So now the database should be set up. It's still empty, but we're going to come back to that later in this tutorial. Now I can set this task to done. So the next step then is to create a virtual environment, or at least the place where the users are going to be. So I kind of want to have these in the same task because they are more or less similar. So let's go back to the command line, and then we can begin by installing or upgrading pip. So sudo pip 3 install -- upgrade pip, just to make sure that we have the newest version. Yes, yada yada yada. So we already have this. Okay, so successfully install pip 24, perfect. And then we can create the folder where all of the projects are going to be located. So mkdir/webapps. This could be projects or whatever you want, but I'm used to putting all of my Django projects in a folder or a root folder called webapps. Next, I want to create one folder for the project 1. So mkdir project 1. Go into this, and then here I can create a new environment for this project. So python 3-m venv, and then the name of the project, which is just env. You can call this whatever you want, but env is easy to understand what to do. Okay, forgot to install this, so just copy this line, paste it, hit enter, and yes, I want to install this. Okay. If I just use the arrows to click up 2 times, I get the command here again. I can hit enter, and now my environment should be created. Great, so then this is the environment for project 1. I want to create a group, or sort of a user group, for all of the web apps. So sudo group add space -- system, because I want to add this to the system, web apps. And then I want to create a Ubuntu user, so not a Postgresql user, but a Ubuntu user for this project. So sudo user add space -- system -- gid, which stands for group ID, and the group ID is web apps, and then which shell to use. So shell should be /bin, shell like that, /bin/bash. Then I can set a home folder for this user, and the home folder is /webapps/project1. So this is where you will be sent if you try to log in with this user. And then I just specify the username here, which can also be project1 user. Okay. So now we have the environment and we have the users here. Great. So now I can go to the to-do list and set this here to done. Next step then is to set up the requirements fields. So if I go to the editor, you can see that I have a project here with an environment file, environment folder, and I have the Django project here with the core app and a few things. The project looks like this. It's very simple. Just have a front page with the title and image and a simple about page. So it doesn't do very much, but still I want to create an requirements field for this. So if I now go to this tab, I have the project running here and I can just stop it. If I run ls, you can see that I'm in the same folder as manage.py, and this is also where I want my requirements file to be. So to create that, I can say pip freeze. Then you see that the packages I have installed here are ASGRF, Django 503 and SQL parse. To create a file, just run this command and use this bracket here and pipe it into a file called Requirements.txt. If I go back to Visual Studio Code, you can see that I have it here. And I want to add a few more things here that we're going to need on the server. First, it's psycho pg2-binary equals 2.9.9. This is a binary file or something that we need. It's sort of an adapter between Python and Postgresql. We're going to use something called .env equals 005. This is a package that are used to read environmental files from the server, so they don't have to store things in the settings file. And Gunicorn equals 21 to 0. Gunicorn is another web server that we are going to use on the server. So we're going to use both Nginx and Gunicorn, and later I will explain how these are connected to each other. So we can save this now, and that should be it for the requirements file. So I can set this to done. So then we can create a separate settings file for the production. So if I find project 1, settings.py, I can copy everything here into a new file and save it as settingsprod.py. In production, we do not want to have the secret key stored in here, so we can read this from an environmental file instead. I'm going to do that soon. Debug needs to be set to false. So in the production file, you do not want this secret key to be here. So we can just remove this, and instead here we can say os.environ.get, and we want to get the key called secret_key and default this to be empty. So you can see here we get the warning because we have not imported OS yet. So we do that here, import OS, and we also need to import the .env that we just installed. So below here we can say from .env import load_.env, and then we just initialize this by saying load_.env like that. You can see here now we get a warning because I have not imported this, installed it. We're going to do that when we deploy. So this can just be like it is, but copy this, scroll down until you find where we set up the database. We're going to use a password field here, password, and then we can say db password. So this environmental file is something that I want to set up on the server. The engine cannot be SQL3 anymore. It needs to be Postresql _psycho pg2, which is the adapter that we installed. The name is not this one, but it can be project 1, which is the database name. Not sure if you can see it anymore, but yes, it was here, create database. And then the user pass in that one. You could add these two in the environmental file if you want to do that, but for me it's enough with just the password. We need to set up the host, which is localhost, and the port, which can just be empty. So now we have configured this to use the PostgreSQL database that we have created. So we can save this now. And if I now go to the to-do list, I can set this here task to done. So now comes the question, how do we send code to the server? You could zip the file, send it, unzip it, and just have it there. You could use rsync or scp or similar, but most cases we like to use GitHub, so it's easy to send code and deploy whenever you want. So I can go to github.com. If you don't have an account, it's free to sign up. And when you are in here, you can just click your profile up here and your repositories. And then you have a plus button there. And I want to create one called project 1. I don't need the description, and this can just be public since I'm just sharing everything with you. But if you choose private, no one else can see that you have this repository. Not going to use this. This is something I want to do manually and no license. So just create repository. And I want to create a new repository. I do not want to push an existing. So if I go there now, I can copy this, go to the command line, and not on the server, sorry, here locally, I can say this one to create a readme file so that I have that. Go here again, git initialize, like that. So now I can say git status, and you can see here that these files are going to be committed. Before I do anything more of this here, I want to do one thing, and that is to create an git ignore file. So in this folder, not this one, but this project one, I say .git ignore, and I want to ignore all files that just ends with pyc in the root folder, and in this folder .pyc, and in the subfolder there again. So now we just ignore all of these because we don't want to have these in the repository. I want to ignore files that is called .env. And I also want to ignore this database file. So db.sqlite3. Save. Yes, I think that should be it. So now these files here will not be added to the repository, not here and not on the server. So now we can continue with this one, but I want to run git add dash because I want to git status. I want to add all of the files that we have here. So now you can see that all of these are going to be pushed to the repository. Next step is to commit this message. So now git status. Now it looks like everything is done. On branch main, nothing to commit because I have committed it, but they are not pushed to the server yet or to GitHub. First I need to set which branch to use, and then I need to set up the origin, which is the URL to the repository on Git. And then I can just git push u origin main. So now I can see that I need to set up a username here. My username is Helset, and the password is not actually my password, because now I get information that support for password authentication was removed August 13th, 2021. Okay. So even if this is a public repository, you need to specify which users can contribute, and only the users which are added can contribute, but they need to log in with a password. So if I find my profile, sorry, not my profile, my settings page. So when you have got into settings, you can scroll down and click developer settings, and in here we have something called personal access tokens. You can just use tokens classic and create a new one here. So generate new token, classic. Note, code with Stein tutorial. Expiration, this can just have no expiration. And I want to have full control over this. I don't think that I'm going to need any of these. So yes, generate token. So then I get this token here. I can copy that one. And if I then go back here, click up again to push this, sign in with my username, and paste the password or token I just created. So now this was pushed, and if I find here now and refresh, then you can see here all of these are pushed here. You can see the requirements file we have created and similar. Okay, so now I can go to the to-do list and set this to done. Next step then is to get the code from GitHub. To do that, I just click code here and copy this address. Go to the command line, find the server, make sure that you are in webapps/project1 where we have this folder. Oops, I should not have marked it, and then just git clone and paste in the URL. So this is a public project, so we don't need a password or token to get this data. So now I have it here. Nice. So if I go back here now, I can set this to done. Then I need to set up the environmental file. And before I go to the initialization of the database, then we can install software from requirements. Forgot to add that as a task, but now we can set up the env file. So if we go back here, go into project 1, which is the root folder for the Django project, then we can set vi.env to open up an editor. You can see here now, and to type things here you need to click I. Then you can see down in the corner it says insert. Here we can specify the secret underscore key. So this should be something very long and secure, and do not share this with anyone. And then db underscore password, and paste in the password that I created earlier, which was project1 password. Then I can click escape. Now I can't insert anything more here. And to save and quit, I type :WQ, as you can see down here, and hit enter. So that is write and quit. So if I say cat.env now, you can see that the contents of this file is this one. And these are the things that I want to read in the settings file. Okay, so now we can okay, so let me just see here now. I can set this to done now. Next step then is to install the software from the requirements file, for example Django. To do that we need to activate the environment by saying source env bin activate. You can see the name down here now. And to install everything we need, we just say pip install -r. And I will need to specify the requirements file, which is located in project1/requirements.txt. So now you can see that everything, almost at least, was being installed. Okay, it couldn't find .env005. Okay, so let's try to use this .env instead. So if you just copy this name, go to your Visual Studio Code and find the requirements file, you can replace this == and save. Now I need to send this code to Git again. So if I go to the local host here, then I can say git status. You'll see that this file has changed. So git add requirements.txt, git commit -m changed requirements, git push, and go on the server again, go into project 1, say git pull to pull the latest changes. Okay, I did a change in that one, so let me just fix that. and write pull again. So if I now say cat requirements, you can see that this is now there instead of the other .env. So let us try to run the pip install -r requirements command again. So now all of the packages was installed. Perfect. So now we have Gunicorn, we have the Postgresql adapter, we have .env, we have Django, and everything we need in order to continue. So now I can go to the to-do list and set this to done. Then we can initialize the database by running the migrate command. So if I now try to, let me just show the contents of manage.py. This will try to use the project1.settings file. So we need to change this to use, we need to specify which settings file we are going to use. So to do that we can say python manage.py migrate --settings equals project1.settings prod to point to that file instead. So now we can see here that it actually run the migrations. We still don't have the db.sqlite because that doesn't exist. This talked to the Postgresql database. So now we have a Postgresql database running and we are connected to it using Django. Nice. Okay, next step then is Gunicorn. And Gunicorn is sort of the web server we're going to use for Django. This is perfect for Django because it's fast and it's there just for Django. The Nginx part of this tutorial goes more for the media files and settings files that are in Django. So we have installed this, and now I want to create a script that are going to run Django, make sure that Django is there, which settings file to use, which users to use, etc. And to do that I can say touch env bin Gunicorn _start. And then I added this file by saying vi env bin Gunicorn start. First I just want to insert here and specify that this is a shell script, so /bin/sh, so it's a shell script. Set the name of this to be project1. Then I can specify the directory or the path to Django project, which is /webapps/project1/project1. Next I want to specify something called sock file, which is a file that Gunicorn will create automatically when it's started, so we don't do this manually, but this should be located in webapps project1 run gunicorn.sock. Which user should do this? User equals, that is project1 user, and this is the Ubuntu user that you added with the user add command. The group that should be allowed to be here is web apps. Num workers equals 3. And if you remember, when we created the server, we had one virtual CPU on the droplet. So you multiply that by 2 and add 1. If we had 2 CPUs, this would be 5. So you multiply 2 by 2 and add 1. And then which settings file to use? So Django _settings _module equals project1.settings prod. So that just points to that file. And then we have a file in this file called WSGI, which just sort of sets up the project and its entry points before you are sent to the settings file, which points you to the URLs file, etc. So Django _WSGI _module equals project1.wsgi. Timeout equals 120. So this is just how long time before everything just shuts down. So now we need to instruct this script to do a few things. So we do that by saying cd $Django there. So you tell it to go into that folder. So now we sort of are in this folder. And when we are there, we want to activate the environment by saying source.env bin activate, because this env folder is actually in this folder. And now we want to export or set a few temporarily environmental variables by saying export Django _settings _module equals $, and then we can use this variable up here. Export Python path, so we need to alter this a little bit by passing in Django there :Python path. Next we specify run there and where that is located, so run there equals $, pass in their name like that, their name, and sock file. So we just specify that you should sort of start inside there, the run folder and the socket file. Then we can set test-d to see if that folder is created, run there, and if it is not, then we can say mkdir-p run there. So what this does is that it checks if this folder is created. If not, we create it, and when that is done, we start Gunicorn. So exec /env, because we are still in this folder, env bin Gunicorn, and in here we pass in the WSGI module that we specified up there, :application \. And then here we can specify a few names that are going to be handy in the log files and similar. So --name, pass in name, which will be project1. We add this / because then we can go to the next line and continue this, so it don't belong a very long command, but this is much easier to read. Workers can be set to num workers. Timeout should be set to timeout. User equals, here we use the equal sign and not just a parameter. This is user, which is this one, and the group, which is group / again. And then we bind Unix to sock file. And then we specify which log level we're going to send to the log files. So log-level equals debug, another \, log file equals like that. So I hope you understand everything here. If something here is unclear, feel free to leave a comment below. I will try to answer you as soon as possible. Now we can save, quit, save and quit. And then the to-do list, we are still on this one. So we can try to run this here now by saying /env bin env bin Gunicorn start. So permission denied. Okay, we need to make this executable, and we do that by saying chmod +x, and then just paste this in. Then try to do this one more time. It actually looks like this was started now, and that's okay. And it was okay now because the user IAM is root, but Gunicorn is instructed to use the project1 user, and this will not have access to do that here. And to get this access, if I now run ls-larth, you can see that this is owned, everything here, by root. So we need to change the ownership of these folders by saying chown -r because this should be recursive, so it's in this folder, and this, and also all of the subfolders. Specify the user by saying project1 user web apps because it's in this group, and dot. So then it will be in this folder and all of the subfolders. If I run ls-lart again, you can see that project1 user now owns this, and the web apps is the group it's in. So if I now run the script again, everything seems to be in order. Perfect. Just quit this and go here, set this to done. Next step then is to set up something called Supervisor. And Supervisor is sort of like, it's not like a bot, but it's a program that will run in the background, and if, for example, Gunicorn stops, it will try to start it again, and it will make sure that it's being automatically started if you reboot the server and similar. So we install this at the beginning, so we just need to create a settings file for this. I'll do that by saying vi/etc supervisor/conf, and then the name, which can be project1.conf. Here we specify in sort of brackets program : project1, and then we need to instruct this to what command this should run. So command equals /webapps/project1/env bin Gunicorn _start. So we just want to make sure that it runs this command. We need to specify which user it should use, and that is project1 user. And then we can specify the log file for this, which is project1 env logs. Actually, I want this to be not there. I want this to be in project1/log, so not inside the environment, but in this root folder. And then a file called supervisor.log. Then we add redirect std_err equals true, and this takes the output from the managed programs sub-processes to the standard output stream. So we just, for example, things that are outputted in Django, so that you can get that in the supervisor log. And then we specify that the environment, the language is default English US, UTF-8, and the same here. So then we can save now and quit. And then we need to tell supervisor to use this or to activate it, and we do that by saying supervisor ctl read to check. Okay, you can see here now it actually get the error because we don't have this logs folder. We need to create that. mkdir logs, because you see that I'm here now, which is the one that is specified. But if I run ls-lart now, you can see that this is owned by root. So if I just click up a few times until I find this command, then I can make sure that project1 user owns this folder as well. Great. So let's run the reread command again. Then you can see here project1 available. And then we say supervisor ctl update to initialize and start this. If you now run supervisor ctl status, then you can see here that this is running. So now supervisor has started Gunicorn, and Gunicorn is running in the backend or the background. We can't access this because Gunicorn doesn't have a face out of this server, and that is what Nginx is going to help us with. So I just want to go back here now, set this to done before I continue by setting up Nginx. And to set up Nginx, we can create a new file, but let's go to the settings, the command. And to create the config files for Nginx, we can go to the folder /Nginx. And to create the config files for Nginx, we go to the settings file there. So cd/etc Nginx sites available. Run ls here. And you can see that we have the default one. We can just delete this by saying rm-f default. And then we can create our own by saying touch project1.conf. And to edit this now, we say vi project1.conf. So first here we initialize something called an upstream project1_app_server, add the curly braces, and in here I specify a server which we bound to Unix, and the URL to that one is webapps/project1 run, and then the Gunicorn socket that was created. So this can be closed, and then we specify the server here. So server, another curly brace, and we want to listen to port 80. Listen 80, and 80 is the port for HTTP. And we can set up the server name, and I have set up 2 domains to point to this server now. project1.code with stein.com. Add the semicolon at the end there. And in here I want to specify where we have the log files. So access log equals web apps. Sorry, no equal sign there, just web apps/project1/logs/access.log. Now we do the same thing with the error log web apps/project1/logs/error.log. And we are going to have static files for the admin interface and similar, so we need to set up a location for static files. So now Nginx will handle this for us, location/static. Previously we have just used the Python managed by run server to handle this, but we can't do that in production. In here we set up an alias to web apps/project1/project1, which is the Django project. This is just the root folder. And in there, if you have a folder called static, we can read from there. So all the URLs that begins with static will go in here and find the files. Now we can do the same thing for media. Set up an alias to the media folder. Media. Then that can be closed. And then location. So for everything else, we go into this location. And here I want to set up something called a proxy set header. And what this does is that it's the standard HTTP header used to indicate the client's original IP address. So everything will be pointed towards the log files and further down in this system. And then one more proxy set header, host, HTTP host. This is almost the same thing. It just ensures that all of the requests and similar from the original request is being sent forward to Django, so we can handle everything there. Then we set proxy redirect off. And this is disabling URL redirection for responses from the upstream server that we have up here. And that means that Nginx will not modify the location header in HTTP redirection responses received from the backend. So that means that we have full control from Django. And if the request is not a file name, then we can say proxy pass http:// then we just pass in the project1 app server from the top there, which means that all other requests than these, which are files, will be sent in here and handled by the Gunicorn server. So now we can save and quit. Go up one folder and into a folder called sites enabled. Here you can see that we still have default, so let's delete that one as well. And run ls. So now this is empty, so now we just need to set up a symbolic link back to this one that we created. So ln-s/sites available/project1.conf. So if I run this command now, you can see that we have this file here and it just points back to this one. So this is just sort of the best practice way to do this. So now we can start Nginx by saying service Nginx start. So there were no errors, which means that hopefully it was working, and I can now go to project1.codewithstein.com. Yeah, I get welcome to Nginx. That is not correct. Let me try to restart this. Took a little while. Refresh again, and now I get the bad request 400. Okay, at least I'm not going to the default page for Nginx anymore. So if I now go back to web apps project 1 logs, then I can see in here, I can cat the error file and see if there are anything. No. Cat supervisor. Everything there seems to be running. Okay. So why is there a problem now? This can be a Django error, so let's find out. I think it is actually. When I think about it, if I just go back here, we have something called allowed hosts. And here I need to pass in project1.codewithstein.com, save, and then go here again, git add dot git status. Let's see what I'm committing to the server. Git commit changed hosts, git push. So now I sent the code back to git again, made a change. Then I can go into the Django folder as I git pull to get there again. Okay, so here I get the dubious ownership. Now that's because I am root user, but if I say sudo dash u project 1 user, that did not work. Sudo su dash, yes, now you can see I changed user to project 1, and if I go into project 1 folder, then you can see that I'm in the Django folder. Git pull, then I can jump out of this user again by hitting Control D, and now I need to restart Supervisor in order for these changes to take effect. So Supervisor ctl restart project 1. So now that stops, starts, and we are ready to test again. So now I have the project1.codewithstein.com running. Nice. You can also see that this media file is coming from there. Perfect. Last thing now is that you can see up here that this is not secure. We are coming from HTTP, but we want HTTPS. I think I can just say cert bot now -d project1.codewithstein.com, and then I need to pass in an email address, codewithstein@gmail.com. Yes, I agree. No, I don't want emails, I already get them. So now you can see that it's requesting to get the certificate. See if this domain actually points to this server. Great. So now successfully deploys there. So now we have the certificate. You can see here the location for this. So then we just need to instruct Nginx to use this certificate. So we need to change the config file a little bit. vi etc Nginx sites enabled. Sorry, sites enabled /project1. Okay, certbot actually did this automatically. So you can see here that it did some changes. It now listens to port 443 instead of 80. And down here, where it listens to port 80, it will just redirect us directly to HTTPS. We can try to restart Nginx now. Refresh here now, and then you can see that we get this here, because we are now on HTTP. Great. So now we can set this task here to done, and we can set this to done, because now we have the certificate for this. So next step then is to configure the project, the Postgresql for project 2. So we can go back here again, just deactivate this environment, deactivate. Then we can find the command by hitting Ctrl R. Then you can see here, reverse iSearch, search for Postgresql, and just hit enter. So now we are in there. Then we can create a new database, create database project 2. We can create a new user, project 2 password, and project 2 user is the one that we want to pass in there. Then we need to alter the roles for these. So just replace it 2 again there. We need to alter the default transaction isolation as well. 2. And we need to set the time zone there. And we need to grant the correct privileges. That was this one, yes. To this database, to this user 2. And then we can just quit there, because now we have a new database, empty for project 2, done. Next is to create the virtual environment. So let's go to web apps, and we can make a new folder here, mkdir project 2. Go into that one, sorry, project 2. Then we can create the environment by running this Python 3 command venv env. Great. And then we can create the user. So user add, if I just search for this one, then we have the sudo user add system. Group ID should still be web apps, but the home folder for this user should be project 2, and the username should be project 2 user. Okay, so now we have the user, and the groups we don't have to think about because that was already created for us. So we have the environment, and we have this one. Great. So now we need to do the same thing with the requirements file. Since I already have it here, I can just make a copy of this, and then I can find project 2 here, create a new file, Requirements.txt. But this can vary a little bit from Django project to Django project, but these projects are identical, so I can just make this copy instead of running the pip freeze command and similar. Great. So then I have that one. Then I can create a new separate settings file. So in project 2, I create this file. Settings prod.py, copy everything and paste it, and then I find the settings prod from part 1, and I can copy this database configuration, find the database configuration here, paste it. Just need to rewrite this to 2. This should be 2, like that. And since I know that here I need this allowed host, this can be project2.code.stein.com, and then I just need to import OS, and from .env import load.env, and then we just run it at the top here. So then it's just a matter of getting this as well. So os.env.get secret_key, default this to be empty. Save. So now we should have this ready, and I can set this to done. So then I can send the code to GitHub. So we need to create a new project here. So just find the plus button, new repository, project 2, no description, public. This can just be like it is, create repository. Then we can create the readme file just so that we have it, not on the server, sorry. We need to find this folder on the local here. So cd project 2, cd project 2, and then here I can create this one. Then I can initialize git, and I can say git add, sorry, do not add it yet. I want to fix the env file. Not the env, sorry, the git ignore. So I can copy this ignore file from project 1, and then in here we say .git ignore, paste and save. So then I can say git add dot and git status just to see that everything is being added. Perfect. Then we say git commit and set up the branch, this one, and push. So I can just copy all of these 3 lines, hit enter, and then everything should be running there now. So if I refresh now here, you can see that all of the data is sent here to project 2. Perfect. So I can set this to done. Then we need to get the code from GitHub. Copy this URL, go to the server. Here in the project 2 folder, git clone. So we just clone this repository. ls. Go into this one. Then we have it there. Nice. That was quick. So now we can set up the env file. So you can just copy the other one. So cp/webapps project 1 project1.env dot. So it will be pasted here. That was one too many, project 1. There. So then we should have it here, .env, so I can edit this, env. So this then needs to be project 2 password. And we can also have a little bit different secret key here than on the other project. Save and quit, and then we have the environmental file. So now we can initialize the database. Actually, here is something wrong. We have not installed software from the requirements file. We need to do that first. So we can activate the environment by saying source.env, then activate pip install -r requirements.txt. Then this will actually use the cached version from the other project. Nice, we didn't have to download anything. And now the environment is ready, and we can initialize the database. Just search for the migrate command, python manage.py migrate. Need to change this because this needs to be project 2.settingsprod. Module OS has no attribute env. Okay, I guess I wrote it a little bit wrong. os.environ was it supposed to be, and I miss there. Environ, and environ is what we have down there. So we just need to send the code to git again. Git add, git add, git commit, changed config, git push. And then we can say git pull again to get the new data. Then we can try to initialize the database again. Yes, there it worked. Perfect. Done and done. So then we can do the same thing with the Gunicorn script that we did previously. So we can make a copy of that. So cp/webapps project 1 env bin Gunicorn start, and we can paste this into the folder webapps project 2 env bin there. So now it's in that folder. We just need to modify it a little bit. vi env bin Gunicorn start, because this needs the name project 2. Of course, set this to be 2 here. set it to be 2 there, and use the project 2 user and the project 2 settings prod, project 2 WSGI. That's everything we need to do there. So then we can try to run this /env bin Gunicorn start. That did not work. Looks like I forgot to change one thing. There, it should be project 2, which is the URL for the Django project. Execute again, and now it is running. Before we do anything more here now, I just want to run the chown command -r project 2 user web apps dot lslars, just to make sure that it worked. Yes, great. So now Gunicorn is done. Next step, supervisor. We can make a copy here as well. So cp etc supervisor conf. There we should have a file called project1. Paste this in again and just say project2.conf. So now we can edit this file here and say project2. This command should run the project2 and use the project2 user like that, and there, project2. Then we can save and quit. Before we do anything more, I want to create the logs folder. Then we can run the chown command again to change ownership, and then we can try to tell supervisor to reread, supervisor ctl reread, and then update. So if I now run supervisor ctl status, you'd see that we have 2 projects and both of them are running and how long they have been running. Great. So done. Next step, Nginx. So it's sort of the same here. If we just go into cd etc Nginx sites available, then we can make a copy of project2 and call this project2.conf. If you now edit this, then we can remove everything that has to do with SSL. So just delete this by double clicking D. And all of this at the bottom here is not needed right now. We want just to make sure that certbot is setting this up for us. So we just need to instruct this to listen to port 80. Then we need to do some renaming here. And down here, project2, 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 and last but not least, this server here. So now we can save and quit. Almost just save. I saw that I forgot to rename this part here. Project2. So now all of the references to project1 should be gone. I can save and quit this and say that Nginx should restart. So service Nginx restart. No errors. So that means that we can try to go to project2.code with stein.com. Got a 404 error. Why? Okay, sorry. Go up one folder and into sites enabled, and then we need to set up this symbolic link again. So lnds/sites enabled, sorry, sites available project2 dot lslart. You can see there now, and then we can restart Nginx again. that looked better and took a little bit more time now. So if I go back now, refresh, you can see here project 2 and project 1. Both of them are not connected, but they are on the same server. So you could also set up certbot again, certbot-d project 2.code with stein.com, hit enter. And now this should go more or less automatically. Successfully. Now it was restarted. So if I do a hard refresh, you can see that I got the padlock there again. Nice. So then I can set this to done, I can set this to done, and this to done. And that was it. Hopefully now you understand a little bit more on how you can run your own server, how to deploy multiple Django projects to one server, and similar. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, and I will answer as soon as I can.